Imagine a new kind of investing, a potentially life-changing way to invest that honors biblical principles, the kind of principles that you and I grew up with. Since 1994, Timothy Plan has made biblically responsible investing possible, offering mutual funds and ETFs that are filtered for biblical principles. Don't compromise your values. Invest with Timothy Plan. Ask your financial advisor or call Timothy Plan at 1-800-TIM-PLAN. Again, that's 1-800-846-7526 and discover what it means to be a biblically responsible investor. Investing involves risk, including possible loss of principal. Before investing, carefully consider a fund's investment objective, risks, charges, and expenses contained in the prospectus available at timothyplan.com. Read carefully before investing. Mutual funds distributed by Timothy Partners Ltd. and ETFs distributed by Foreside Fund Services LLC. As a paid testimonial, there is no guarantee of future performance and each experience will differ. Welcome to another edition of the MemoPod. Great to have you with us. Those of you that are watching us, hello. Welcome to the Heck Hole, TM, trademark. And those of you who are just listening, you're also in the Heck Hole. You just don't realize it. So this is welcome to everybody because, of course, free subscribers are with us right now for the beginning. And in this beginning, we're talking conversion therapy because there is something that we all need to realize that I don't think a lot of people are realizing. By the way, if you're watching, you see that I'm vintage. Vintage. That's what I am. Not old, vintage. So anyway, conversion therapy. Then for those of you who are our paid subscribers, you'll stay through the break. And on the other side, we're going to talk about this whole idea of marginalized. One of the things that you hear a lot whenever, especially this month, Pride Month, as it's known, we talk a lot about, you hear a lot of progressive Christians say things like, well, but Jesus came for the marginalized. He came for the outcasts. And certainly that's true. Jesus ministered to the outcasts. He ministered to the marginalized by society. It's always interesting to me, though, the way that we respond to that. There's a way that I've always responded to that, and I don't think it's the most effective way to respond to it anymore. The way that I think we need to kind of look at it is, who exactly are the marginalized in American society today? Because if you believe it's the LGBT, etc., that group, if that's your definition of marginalized, then we're going to have to talk through this definition. So that's on the flip side of the second half of this MemoPod. And also Vivek Ramaswamy. And I don't know if that's how you say his name. It's how I've decided I'm saying his name. So Vivek, there's some things about this guy I really like. He's really done some nice stuff. He did a great job with Dana Bash on CNN, and I talked about that in the Heckfire podcast that I do for Not the Bee. Just played the audio. It was stunning what he did to her. It's a great. I may even write a piece about it next week. I don't know. But anyway, so Vivek Ramaswamy, he posted something on Twitter, 10 things, 10 truths. It's amazing that any of these are controversial. I want to go through them with you if you didn't see that. That's for our paid subscribers after the break. But right now, let's talk conversion therapy. I don't expect this to happen, okay? I firmly don't expect former governor, former congressman, former vice president Mike Pence, I don't see his candidacy taking off. Just like I never saw, as much as at the time I would have wanted it, I never saw former Indiana senator and former vice president from Indiana, Dan Quayle. I never saw his presidential aspirations taking off, and they didn't. Kind of taxied down the runway and then just kind of pitched over there. And but it never got any height. Never, yeah. And I don't think Pence is going to either. I don't know exactly what group he's going to appeal to, because the traditional conservative religious folks, those that are not on board with Trump, are going to be those who had a problem with Donald Trump from a religious or a moral perspective. And they're going to wonder why Mike Pence was okay with being tied to Donald Trump. So I don't think he's going to win that group. He's not going to win them over. And he's certainly not going to win the Trump folks over because they see him as betraying Donald Trump. So I'm not exactly sure where he thinks the momentum is going to build, but I also understand if he's going to run, this is the year that he's got to do it, and so he's going to give it a shot. But here's what I'm going to tell you. If the Mike Pence for president candidacy goes anywhere, if it starts to gain steam for any reason, and he's not extraordinarily dynamic, he's not extraordinarily charismatic, I think the man does have character and all of that. But if it starts to go anywhere, I'll tell you exactly what the media is going to drudge up. I will tell you right now what the angle against Mike Pence is going to be. The angle against Mike Pence is going to be, and you're going to see these, the headlines. You're going to see the pearl clutching from the commentators on left-wing cable news. And it's all going to be about how Mike Pence once supported conversion therapy for gay kids. Conversion therapy for gay kids. It would have been 2017. So it was the first year of his vice presidency. Okay, so the election was in 2016, and Trump and Pence take office in January of 2017. And ABC is running this story. I'm going to read to you 2 paragraphs here of this story that was on abcnews.com. Quote, as a candidate for Congress in the 1990s, Pence's campaign website included a statement that fueled belief that he was in support of conversion therapies for gay youths. Okay? So again, this is 2017, and ABC is going back into the 1990s, the archives of the 1990s, to find Pence's congressional campaign website, and they find this statement on that website, which I'm sure is now defunct. I'm sure it's been erased, but of course, all of this stuff is archived by Opposition for Opposition Research and all of that. Here was the statement from the Mike Pence for Congress website. Quote, resources should be directed toward those institutions which provide assistance to those seeking to change their sexual behavior. This is under a headline, ABC says, called The Pence Agenda. Let me read to you that statement again, and I just want you to be as open-minded as possible. Okay, most of you who are watching this, you probably have more conservative politics. You may be believers, okay? Some of you may not be. Some of you may be on the more progressive side of things, and that's great. But I want you to listen to this with an open mind. This is what it said. Is there anything objectionable in this statement? Resources should be directed toward those institutions which provide assistance to those seeking to change their sexual behavior. Is there anything offensive there? Here's the only thing that I could see somebody having an issue with, legitimately having an issue with, that would make sense. And that is, when he says resources, those are he's obviously talking about government resources, and I don't know that the government needs to be funding private counseling. I don't know that that's necessary. Okay, what about somebody that wants to change their nicotine behavior? Should they get government resources to do it? Somebody that wants to change their meth addiction, whatever the behavior is that somebody's looking to modify or change, is that a proper role for government to be sending tax dollars? Now, you may say yes, and obviously our society in large part has said yes, but I could see where somebody would make the argument that's for a person to fund themselves and not the government. But outside of that, I don't see anything objectionable in that statement. But ABC reports that statement fueled belief that Mike Pence was in support of conversion therapies. Here's what the Pence Agenda on that website actually is saying. It's saying kids that are struggling with their sexual urges, they should be able to get counseling to help them. That's what it says. That is extremely, radically rational. In every sense of the word, that is a completely rational position. And yet, since these folks at ABC, as well as the vast majority of the media, they get a paycheck for the sole purpose of going out and slandering the right, especially those like Mike Pence, who boastfully, proudly wear the name of Jesus, they go out and slap the conversion therapy label on it because they know the connotations that come with that. When you hear conversion therapy, the general public, they're not going to read the story. They're not going to read what was actually on the website. They're going to be left with the impression that Mike Pence favors strapping children to electroshock machines and zapping the gay out of them. That's what the media is trying to leave in the minds of the reading public. Oh, they're only going to read the headline. So we put this out here. Mike Pence was once in support of conversion therapies. People, when they hear that, because of the job the media's done, are not going to sit there and say, oh, Mike Pence believes that a kid who has sexual urges that they don't want and they're wanting to get counseling on how to handle that, he believes that they should be able to get counseling. That's not how they're going to interpret it. They're going to interpret it as Mike Pence hates gay kids and wants to take them and strap them to the machine, the rack, like from The Princess Bride, and subject them to this water torture. But he's willing to waterboard gay kids or trans kids. That's it. But here's what is, and I'm struggling here because I don't want to use the word funny, but it is kind of funny. There are people in our society right now who believe in conversion therapy. There are people who right now are actively putting gay kids through conversion therapy right now. This very moment, they're doing it. There are people in our culture right now who are tricking gay kids into undergoing surgical procedures, promising them, if you do this radical surgery, you can change who you are. Just lay down on this table, let us put some drugs in you to sedate you, and let us operate on you, and we will change who you are. You don't like who you are, we can change who you are. Does that not sound like conversion therapy? Lay on the table, get some treatment, and you'll be somebody different. I thought we were opposed to that. But there are people who are doing it. People who know that the real consequence of what they're doing, it's only going to leave bodily mutilation and scars, emotional as well as physical. There are people right now who are seducing gay kids into taking a strict regimen of hormone-altering chemicals that will poison their bloodstream, that will injure their bodies, and that are going to wreak havoc with their minds. People right now in our society. You don't have to go back to the 1990s and look at former Vice President Mike Pence's website and try to stretch what it says to try to conjure up some sort of image that maybe this is what he was. No, there's people who are doing this right now. If you don't like conversion therapy, then don't go after the, well, kind of supposedly he might have thought back 30 years ago. No, if you're opposed to conversion therapy, then take on the people who are doing it right now. Here's the reason the media won't, because those people are not conservative Christians. They are progressive transgender activists who are doing it. The sad truth is that there is a great number of well-intentioned individuals, some even in the church, who legitimately want to help this tiny percentage of kids out there who experience true gender dysphoria. Now, the vast majority of people who claim a transgender identity do not actually have clinical gender dysphoria. There's a huge fad that is involved here. There are social pressures that are involved here, a social contagion, if you want to call it that. But there is a very small percentage of kids who truly do experience gender dysphoria. And you have people who do really want to help them, as well as the larger percentage of kids who have been unbelievably confused by the social pressures that surround us in pop culture. And here's what they've come to believe. they've come to believe, these well-intentioned people, that adopting the bizarre new brown and pink and rainbow overlay, that weird flag and emblem, if they adopt that and put it as a Facebook avatar, or if they publicly identify themselves as an ally, that they're somehow helping. But they're not helping. Instead, what they're doing, well-intentioned people who do want to help kids, who are confused about how to do it, but they do want to help kids, some of whom are Christians, churchgoers, what they're doing is they are tying their credibility to the character of those who are willfully abusing children in order to advance the latest manifestation of this ongoing sexual revolution. Well-intentioned people tying their own credibility to this incredible, lacking credibility movement. And the devastating irony is that the latest manifestation of the sexual revolution involves lying to children and preying upon their confusion in order to force them into a conversion ritual that leads to, well, let me just show you. It leads to this. What you're about to see is a young woman that was lied to, a young woman who experienced or was going to experience same-sex attraction, a gay kid. But those in our culture, transgender activists, got to her and convinced her of something, convinced her to go through this process of conversion, a true conversion therapy. And this is what came as a result of it.
Jet, do you have more thoughts?
Yeah, I'd like to say something about something you both said about like the love thing. Like it ties into the love thing and also sexuality. So I had never really had a crush on anyone before I went on puberty blockers. I'd never met any gay person before I went on puberty blockers. Never met a lesbian. And then I went on puberty blockers, and then while I was on puberty blockers, I met a lesbian girl, and I knew I liked her, but I was just, I didn't have any feelings for her. Like I didn't want to kiss her. I didn't have any sexual feelings because I was on blockers. I knew I liked her, and it just wasn't making any sense. And then I went on testosterone, and that sort of gave me a libido, but it wasn't my own sexuality. My own hormone cycle was suppressed. I didn't have my own sexuality. And so I knew I was in love with this girl, but I wasn't experiencing actual attraction to her. And like you do need that sexual attraction when you're crushing on someone. It's important also in the context of love. And then like what you said about like what this does to someone's body, I think it's a human rights violation to take that from a child. Because, like I said, I had no sexual experience before I went on blockers at 16. I had no experience with my body, none whatsoever. And then I went on blockers, testosterone, and both ruined my sexuality. Testosterone ruined my genitals. And only after quitting testosterone and like my body recovering, only at the age of 22 have I experienced healthy genitals and non-painful orgasms, and that sexuality is actually nice. While for those 6 years between age 16 and 22, I thought sexuality was gross, I thought my body was gross, my genitals hurt, orgasms hurt, I didn't want to be with anyone, I was ashamed of my body. And like I said, I wasn't actually crushing on anyone in a normal way. Nothing made any sense.
Looking back on that, how did you process the, was there frustration, or was it just cluelessness about why these feelings are going on? What do I do with these feelings?
What do you
seems
mean?
like it seems like with that crush, you had had desire, but it could only go so far. So
I felt blocked.
you felt blocked.
Even when I was on testosterone, I felt blocked because I knew I liked her, but I did not even have, like, she would, maybe a bit much, but like she would try to kiss me, and I would be like, well, I like her, so I should be enjoying this, but it wasn't doing anything to me. I would kiss her, and it just nothing happened. While I knew I liked her, and I was like obsessed with her, but my own sexuality wasn't there. And I now know the difference because I now have my own hormone cycle and I have my own sexuality and just everything is different. And now I understand what other people experience. Oh. And now it's like, oh, now I get it.
It's I've heard many stories such as yours, and I just can't get my head around. I can't get my head around it. But thank you for sharing.
Okay, I want to make sure that you know what you just saw. What you just saw right there is a girl who was growing up a tomboy. She didn't have the typical girly fascinations as a kid. She went into Barbies and dolls and all of that stuff. She was growing up a tomboy, and she found that she liked another girl. But rather than being allowed to grow and mature and choose to follow her same-sex attractions, those impulses, whether to follow them or whether to resist them, which is the choice that anybody has. Do I want to follow these impulses or do I want to resist them? What happened to her? She was snatched up from her innocence and put through 21st century American conversion therapy. Supposedly converting a gay kid out of gayness and into a different gender. It's not okay for you to be gay. You need to be the opposite sex of what you are. That will fix you. That's conversion therapy. That's real conversion therapy. I go back to that 2017 piece in ABC News that blasted Pence for supporting conversion therapy. ABC wrote in that piece that conversion therapy has been, quote, long discredited. Let me just say that it would be nice, particularly for girls like you just watched, if ABC would pass that information along to the trans activists who are actually those engaged in conversion therapy in our culture. I'm interested in your thoughts. Peter@peterheck.com. That's Peter@peterheck.com. That's the email address. Would love to hear from all of you. Free subscribers are paid. And this is the end of the road now for the free subscribers. In the next segment, for those of you who are paid and you hang on, we're going to talk about marginalized communities. What does it mean to be marginalized? And does that label accurately apply to the LGBT etc. that surrounds us? Does it actually apply? Is that a marginalized community? Or are we abusing and attacking the English language and contorting it and twisting it and hijacking it and mutilating it to try to make it mean, or apply, I guess I should say, to the LGBT etc. movement? Also, Vivek Ramaswamy nails it with his top 10. Remember the old David Letterman top 10 list? Vivek could bring that back with this top 10. That's for our paid subscribers. All of you free subscribers would love it if you'd give us a shot. You can click the link that's right there in the email that the MemoPod came to you with. You can just upgrade, give it a shot, see if you like the paid subscription. It's only, what is it, $8 a month? Right now, take advantage of that. $8 a month. Give it a shot. You can cancel when you want to or buy a cheaper price for the year and just see what happens. Just roll the dice. What can it hurt, right? All right, enough pressure. See you next week to all of our free subscribers, paid subscribers. Hang tight.
The Memo with Peter Heck.
Please patronize and thank all the sponsors of the Heck podcast, including McGonigal's Buick GMC, Terrell's Auto Service, Norris Insurance, Stevens Machine, Creative Financial Center, Indiana Right to Life, Tri-Green Tractor, the Indiana Family Institute, Hartman Family Farms, Liberty Financial Group, The Wyman Group, and J. Watson Creations.